Hello and welcome back to #Tween and Teen Talk Tuesday with Amanda and Penny. So if you haven't watched any of our other ones, we take a topic and we just kind of start talking about it, and hopefully some of that information will work for you. And if nothing else, you have some new contacts within FCSS that you can, chat with. Our emails are online and our program schedules are there as well. So today, we're going to talk about consent and personal space with our teens and tweens. So Penny's going to start us off and then we'll continue that conversation.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Well, it's morning, it's afternoon. Anyways. So I've been thinking recently about the topic of consent and personal space and personal boundaries, both in giving that to our tweens and teens and encouraging them to do that for others. So by modeling, by accepting their boundaries as parents around physical affection, closeness, then we then can model for them that idea that they can then use in their own, or to top up their own skills. Or bear with me today, I'm having a little bit of difficulty accessing my language center. So yes, how can we model positive? How do we model to our children how to respect other people's personal space and the idea of consent? So, example, if our 9-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old doesn't want us to hug or kiss them in public anymore, we accept that. And how do we accept that? We basically just don't do it. Maybe we can talk about, okay, when, I really love being able to hug you or kiss you, or is one or the other more acceptable, and when can I do it? Okay, well, maybe you can do it at nighttime when I'm going to bed, and I only want you to hug me, not kiss me, or I only want to kiss on the cheek, I don't want you to hug me. Working and having a conversation about, okay, I have needs, you have needs, is there any way I can honor your needs and you can honor my needs? Or maybe it's a handshake, maybe it's a high five, maybe your teen or tween doesn't want any physical contact, so maybe it becomes a smile and a wink. Or, everybody has to work those through themselves, but I do know public affection can often be, a no-go. And then and that's both, right? That's modeling consent. I ask you, is now an okay time? Can I hug you now? Can I kiss you now? No? Okay. Can I give you a high five? And even talking too about talking it out. Because it is awkward with your friends. So maybe they are starting to develop feelings for someone at school. How do you have that conversation about consent? So
yeah, sure. So it's a really good point, right? Where, we look at consent and we're like, okay, what does consent look like? And as adults, it looks quite a bit different to us than it does to our tweens and teens, right? So it's not near as comprehensive for them. And it goes both ways, like you said, right? And so I remember being in classrooms and the kids just coming up and hugging me. No, can I give you a hug? No, whatever's, right? It was just like, hey, Miss Amanda, and there they are giving me a hug, right? And so COVID has been difficult for that, I think, for a lot of people anyway. People are craving that, but I had a conversation with those students in that classroom and I just said, you know what, guys, I don't mind giving hugs, but we're going to do side hugs and we're going to ask permission, because then I know that you're respecting my space, right? And respecting space is the most important thing when we're kind of trying to come in of our own, right? And so I loved, Penny, how you said, talk about it. I don't know how many times in these podcasts we bring up having family meetings or having, journaling conversations with your kids, or, you know, however that works best for your family, but just continuing that conversation and listening, right? Actually listening instead of just hearing. Because sometimes I think for parents, as their kids are growing up, it's hard anyway. So, you know, you want to do the tickle at bedtime. You want to do the kind of cuddle when you're watching a movie. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So consent and personal boundaries are huge.
Yeah. And for me, when we were talking briefly before about this, was that idea that we talk a lot as our children grow about private areas, right? And this is your private area, and that's your private area. Nobody else gets to touch your private area, the doctor, mom and dad. But the idea is your personal space is also your private area, right? That idea that it extends from those areas to, as you get older, you know, you said bubble, right? That idea that there's a space where you welcome people into that space. And as that's, you know, you're right to have that space and say, only the people I welcome in can come in. And teaching our kids, this was the other thing that came up when we were talking, was there's lots of nonverbal things we can help our young teens and tweens be aware of. Like consent doesn't have to be verbal or non-consent, right? There's body language that says, this is my space. You don't have to wait for someone to say, no, you may not hug me, right? If you're confused, you can ask, oh, I noticed that, you know, you're kind of standing off, you know, are you someone who likes hugs? Would it be okay to give you a hug? But picking up on those nonverbal cues, which can be tricky for kids in that age range, I think. What I've observed is they're not really, and typically maybe males even, but females too, it can be hard for them to pick up on those nonverbals, right? Of, you know, you're talking and the person is retreating. Well, that's a clear signal that you're getting too close. Or like learning how to spot those things. And if you don't know, don't assume it's a yes. So silence isn't a yes. Right? Just because someone doesn't say, don't hug me, it doesn't mean that they want you to hug them. So maybe you have taken the step in to hug. Watch their body language, right? A hugger gives off some pretty clear body language that they're open for a hug. A non-hugger gives off some pretty clear messages that they're, you know, maybe not so into it. And if you've hugged them or gone to hug them and it's too late, you can always step back and say, oh, I forgot to ask you, are you okay with a hug? Sorry about that, right? Like all of those ideas around, someone doesn't have to say, no, don't hug me, for you to think about consent. Yeah, I'm not articulating it well, but
No, you are. And I think with the, you know, ever-changing dynamics of what a tween and a teen go through, that's something we also need to keep track of, right? And so there's going to be days where they don't want to be hugged, and then days that they do want to be hugged, or hour by hour sometimes, or minute by minute sometimes, right? And because they're developing so frantically, right? Both their brains and their hormones and their bodies and everything is kind of there at this stage that, you know, they may need to cry on your shoulder, or they may need just a cuddle, right? Or just lay in bed with them for, you know, 10 minutes and just be like, hey, you know, here I am, and see what happens. But every day, every minute, we need to continue kind of going on the roller coaster of tween teenagehood, because it really is a roller coaster. So I think every time we need to be thinking about consent and boundaries, and like you said, Penny, like practicing those as well, right? So if they say don't tickle me, that's it, you're done, right? So yeah, good topic, one that we can talk about forever, I'm sure.
yeah, and I just want to say I love that idea of it being fluid. And that's something that as teenagers start to grow and engage in more physical contact and intimacy, that idea that consent is fluid. So just because your girlfriend or boyfriend said yes yesterday doesn't mean it's a yes today automatically. That has to be an ongoing conversation about in this moment right now, is this okay? It's not that, well, you already said yes, so it's a yes, and it's always a yes. Or you're not saying no, so it's a yes. And again, always with any age group, what you do is what they learn. So, right, if they say, I want to be hugged today, but I don't want to be hugged tomorrow, or you can tickle me, but not today, or in our house, it was always the safe word. There's always a safe word. So if we're wrestling, tickling, anything physical, if someone says stop, we stop immediately. Yeah, beautiful modeling.
Excellent.
So thanks everyone for joining us. Again, check out previous videos on our YouTube channel, our website, www.fcss.ca for contact information. Any questions, anything, feel free to reach out. We're here to support you. Take care, and we will talk to you next week for another hashtag Teen Tween Talk Tuesday, 1 o'clock on our Facebook pages. Bye, everyone.